Today we are going to take a look at whether or not a micro habit like riding your bike to work really can have a significant impact on your financial success. Hello and welcome. My name is Peter B and I welcome you here at My First Million, where we are achieving our financial goals together. So riding the bike to work, does this really make a financial difference? And are other habits like this, like a small changes in your life, really make a difference also financially? Of course, there are like other factors that maybe affect this decision, but today we are going to explore the financial aspects of small habits like this. So for this, let me quickly change to another screen. So riding your bike to work. So there are a few questions that need to be considered, of course. Maybe how long will it take? Maybe your work distance is too far away, so maybe there is no opportunity there for you to ride the bike to work. And then, of course, this topic then is more relatable to people who live in close proximity to their office or to their work. And then, of course, the second question will be, how often is it possible to ride your bike? And of course, this most of the time depends on the weather. So if it rains a lot in your region, then maybe you will not consider riding the bike. Also, maybe in winter time, there's snow on the ground and it's too dangerous, too slippery, could be icy on the road. So at that point, maybe you also would rather prefer still to drive by car or take public transportation. Then, of course, the next point taking into consideration is safety reasons. Is it really safe for you for taking the bike for this distance? Or are there several situations or several locations in your journey to office that are too dangerous to go by bike? So, of course, there are several reasons why maybe you should be considering to ride your bike to work. Of course, it's usually healthier to get some movement done. Then maybe if you really live like in close proximity, it could be even faster. Maybe it's faster just to pick up your bike, start riding, then go to maybe the garage first, get your car ready, and then find a parking lot once you arrive at the office. Also, maybe one thing to take into consideration, usually short distance drives, especially if it's through towns with maybe like red lights and where you need to brake or hold the car several times, maybe at some crossroads or so, are usually worse for your car. So the maintenance costs are usually higher when you usually drive more short distances. Also, for instance, just consider maybe you have a car who already has 100,000 miles driven. If you know that the huge majority of those 100 miles were driven on maybe a highway where the driver could keep a constant speed and usually don't need to break down or halt. Or in contrast, maybe those 100,000 miles were mostly driven through cities where you need to stop each maybe cross section at a red light. Which one of the two cars would you potentially consider as maybe still in better shape? Of course it would be the first one. Okay, now let's say you really live close to your office and you could consider riding your bike. Now let's take this as an example here. Let me scroll down a little bit. So let's say in your situation, maybe it's possible for you to ride the bike 2 times per week. And for the following calculation, I'm just using this scenario. Maybe you can ride the bike 2 days per week. Maybe one way the distance is 3 kilometers, which is around roughly 2 miles. And because you live close to your home, not only maybe you will take the ride twice in the morning and evening, but also maybe you will consider to go back home for lunch break. So it would potentially be adding up around 4 trips per day when you consider 4 4 trips per day when you consider riding your bike. So the annual distance with the bike would be 4 times per day, so once in the morning, once in the evening, and 2 times for lunch. Then we said twice per week, then maybe 50 weeks per year, and each ride is the distance of around 3 kilometers. So we'll end up at the annual distance that you would be riding your bike at 1,200 kilometers. So now let's say you could have like a cost savings per kilometer of around 40 cents. Of course, this also depends a little bit on the gas price, on what car you're driving, and so on. So maybe you want to consider a little bit higher cost savings rate or potentially lower than this one for your calculations in your personal situation. But for this calculation, as an example, I'm just taking 40 cents per kilometer. So if you calculate the 1,200 kilometers times the 40 cents per kilometer, you would have potential cost savings per year of $480. And to simplify this scenario, I'm just considering that the lower maintenance fee that I have for the car will help me to save towards a second-hand bike. So I'm usually not riding a new fancy bike, but instead I'm riding a solid second-handed bike. So just for simplification reasons. So $480 per year. This is potentially an amount that you could be saving in this scenario if you just keep this habit. So what would be the lifetime cost saving if you would do this throughout your life? So let's say you are start working at 20 years old and you're retiring at 65 years old. So you would have 45 working years ahead of you, or in total. So the duration is 45 years. And then the cost of opportunity, as this is a financial channel, we not only just multiply 45 years times the $480 that we have seen before, but we also take into consideration the cost of opportunity. And what's the cost of opportunity? We have seen in the wealth cycle in several videos before, the part of the personal finance journey, the goal is not just to save as much money possible, so not just spend less, but also then use the savings and put them into investments. So, and if you're successful in investing, you should be able to generate a rate of return out of these investments. For myself, I always calculate a 7.2% rate of return. Simply because if you let this compound, so if you don't use up the interest or the dividends that you're getting out of the investments, but just continuously keep it reinvested, considering the rule of 72, my investments are doubling every 10 years. So if I get a rate of return of 7.2% and let it all compound, then 10 years from now, my investment amount will be double. So this is what I use then for this example as well. And these are the results. If you give all those factors into a compounding interest calculator, then you see here, the light blue line is what you are saving every year. So the total saving amount is every year is getting $480 higher throughout 45 years. But if you invest those savings and get it compounded, you will see the difference here on the red line, which will be the total amount that you should be having at a rate of return of 7.2%. So after 45 years, you should have around $145,000 more than you, in contrast, if you just were driving your car to office. Of course, these are just all hypothetical calculations if you keep the same habit throughout your entire work life. But it's still, I think, a very useful thing to do, just to take into consideration that even like a small habit decisions, if you redo them over and over again as a habit, can have quite significant effects on your financial success. So, and just consider yourself at the point when you are going to retire. Would you rather to have an additional? Wouldn't you also like to have an additional $145,000 in your retirement account? Certainly, I would prefer that, of course, as anyone else. So just consider all the options that you are having out there. Do you have other micro habits in mind that you are doing or considering to save a little bit more money here or there? Please share them in our comments below, and I'm always happy to learn from you, and I hope we can here learn together from each other. Thanks a lot for joining me today. I look forward to see you in my next video, and especially I look forward to see you winning financially.